right, chapter 34. The climacteric opposition of Mars of 1909, the last in our records. The next will be in 1924. August 8th, 1909, C. Quarter Germ Met Society NS 35-299 flashes in a clear sky that were seen in Epsom, Surrey, and other places in the southeast of England. They could not be attributed to lightning in England. The writer in the journal finds that there was a storm in France more than 100 miles away. For an account of these flashes, tabulated at Epsom, night fine and starlight, see Simmons Met Mag 44-148. During each period of 5 minutes from 10 to 11:15 p.m., the number of flashes 16-14-20, 31-15, 26-12, 20, 30, 18, 27, 22, 14, 12, 10, 21, 8, 5, 3, 1, 0, 1, 0. With such a time basis, I can see no possibility of detecting anything of a code-like significance. I do see development. There were similar observations at times in the favorable oppositions of Mars of 1875 and 1877. In 1892, such flashes were noted more particularly. Now we have them noted and tabulated, but upon a basis that could be of interest only to meteorologists. If they shall be seen in 1924, we may have observation, tabulation, and some marvelously different translations of them. After that, there will be some intolerably insimilar translations suspiciously delayed in publication. September 23rd, 1909, opposition of Mars. Throughout our data, we have noticed successions of appearances in local skies of this Earth that indicate that this Earth is stationary, but that also relate to nearest approaches of Mars. Upon the night of December 16th and 17th, 1896, concussion after concussion was felt at Worcester, England. A great meteor was seen at the time of the greatest concussion. Mars was 7 days past opposition. We thought it likely enough that explosion after explosion had occurred over Worcester and that something in the sky had been seen only at a time of the greatest or the nearest explosion. We did not think well of the conventional explanation that only by coincidence had a great meteor exploded over a region where a series of earthquakes was occurring and exactly at the moment of the greatest of these shocks. On November 1911, Mars was completing its cycle of changing proximities of a duration of 15 years and was duplicating the relationship of the year 1896. At about 10 o'clock night of November 16, 1911, a concussion that was conventionally said to have been an earthquake occurred in Germany and Switzerland. But plainly there was an explosion in the sky. In the bulletin of the Seismological Society of America 3-189, Count Manessus del Balor writes that he had examined 112 reports upon flashes and other luminous appearances in the sky and had preceded the earthquake by a few seconds. He concludes that a great meteor had only happened to explode over a region where a few seconds later there was going to be an earthquake. It therefore seems highly probable that the earthquake coincided with a fall of meteors or of shooting stars. The duplication of the circumstances of December 1896 continues. If, of course, this concussion in Germany and Switzerland was the effect of something that exploded in the sky, of what we were the concussions that were felt later, the effects. De Balor does not mention anything that occurred later, but a few minutes past midnight, and then again at 3 o'clock, morning of the 17th, there were other but slighter shocks. Only at the time of the greatest shock was something seen in the sky. Nature 88-117, that this succession of phenomena did occur. We relate the phenomena to the planet Mars, but also we ask how, if most reasonably, all three of these shocks were concussions from explosions in the sky, if, of course, one of them was meteors, could ever so hound one small region upon a moving Earth, or projectiles be fired with such specialization and preciseness. November 17th, 1911, was 7 days before the opposition of Mars. Though the opposition occurred upon the 24th of November, Mars was at minimum distance upon the 17th. No matter how difficult of acceptance our own notions may be, they are opposed by this barbarism or puerility or pill that can't be digested. 7 days from the opposition of Mars, 1896, a great meteor exploded over a region where there had been a succession of earthquakes. By coincidence, 7 days from the next similar opposition of Mars, a great meteor exploded over a region where there was going to be a succession of earthquakes. By coincidence. The advantagearians of the moon. That is the cult of lunar communicationists who try to take advantage of such celestial events as oppositions and eclipses, thinking that astronomers or night watchmen or policemen of this earth might at such times look up at the sky. A great luminous object or a meteor that was seen at the time of the eclipse of June 28, 1908, as if to make the date of the eclipse more memorable, says W.F. Denning. Not long before the opposition of Mars in 1909, the bright spot west of Picard was seen twice, March 26th and May 23rd. November 16th, 1910, the eclipse of the moon and the meteor that appeared almost at the moment of totality. It is reported in Nature 85-118 as seen by Madame de Rebec at Naas, Ireland, from an apparent radiant just below the eclipse moon. The thing may have come from the moon, seemingly with the same origin. It was seen far away in France in La Nature, November 26, 1910. It is said that at Besançon, France, during the eclipse was seen a meteor like a superb rocket. Qui sera parte de la Lune. There may have been something occurring upon the moon at the time. In the journal BAA 21-100, it is said that Mrs. Albright had seen a luminous point upon the moon throughout the eclipse. Our expression is that there is an association between reported objects like extra-mundane visitors and nearest approaches by planet Venus to this Earth. Perhaps, unfortunately, this is our expression, because it makes for more restriction than we intend. The objects, or the voyagers, have often been seen during the few hours of the visibility of Venus when the planet is nearest. Then such an object is Venus, says the astronomers. If anybody wonders why, if these seeming navigators can come close to this Earth as they do approach, if they appear only in a local sky, they do not then come all the way to this Earth. Let him ask a sea captain why said captain never purposely descends to the bottom of the ocean, though traveling often not far away. However, I conceive of a great variety of extra-mundanians, and I am now collecting data for a future expression that some kinds of beings from outer space can adapt to our conditions, which may be like the bottom of a sea and have been seen, but have been supposed to be psychic phenomena. Upon October 31st, 1908, the planet Venus was 4 months past inferior conjunction and so had moved far from nearest approach. But there are vague stories of strange objects that have been seen in the skies of this Earth, localized in England back to the time of nearest approach. In the New York Sun, November 1st, 1908, is published a dispatch from Boston dated October 31st. It is said that near Bridgewater at 4 o'clock in the morning on October 31st, 2 men had seen a spectacle in the sky. The men were not astronomers. They were undertakers. There may be a disposition to think that these observers were not in their own field of greatest expertness, and to think that we are not very exacting as to the sources of our data. But we have to depend upon undertakers. For instance, early in our investigations, we learned that the prestige of astronomers has been built upon their high moral character, all of them most excellently going to bed soon after sunset so as to get up early and write all day upon astronomical subjects. But the exemplary is, in one respect, may not lead to much advancement in some other respect. Our undertakers saw in the sky something like a searchlight. It played down upon this Earth as if directed by an investigator, and then it flashed upward. All of the balloons in which ascensions are made in this state were accounted for today, and a search through southeastern Massachusetts failed to reveal any further trace of the supposed airship. It is said that the mysterious bright lights believed to have come from a balloon had been reported from many places in New England. The week before, persons at Ware had said that they had seen an illuminated balloon passing over the town early in the morning. During the summer, such reports had come from Bristol, Connecticut, and later from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and from White River Junction, Vermont. or VT. In all these cases, however, no balloon could be found, all the known airships being accounted for. In the New York Sun, December 13th, 1909, it is said that during the autumn of 1908, reports had come from different places in Connecticut upon a mysterious light that moved rapidly in the sky. Venus moved on, traveling around the sun, which was revolving around this Earth or traveling any way to suit anybody. In December 1909, the planet was again approaching this Earth. So close was Venus to this Earth that upon the 15th of December 1909, crowds stood at noon in the streets of Rome watching it or her. At 3 o'clock afternoon of December 24th, crowds stood in the streets of New York watching Venus. One supposes that upon these occasions, Venus may have been within several thousand miles of this Earth. At any rate, I have never heard of one fairly good reason for supposing otherwise. If again something appeared in local skies of this Earth or in the skies of New England, and sometimes during the few hours of the visibility of Venus, the object was or was not Venus, all according to the details of various descriptions and the credibility of the details. The searchlight, for instance, more than one light directions and motions. Venus, at the time, was for several hours after sunset, slowly descending in the southwest. Primary maximum brilliance, January 8th, 1910. Inferior conjunction, February 12th. There is an amusing befuddlement to clear away first. Upon the night of September 8th, 1909, a luminous object had been seen sailing over New England, and sounds from it, like sounds from a motor, had been heard. Then Mr. Wallace Tillinghast of Worcester, Massachusetts, announced that this light had been a lamp in his secret aeroplane, and that upon this night he had traveled in said secret aeroplane from Boston to New York and back to Boston. At this time, the longest recorded flight in an airplane was Farman's of 111 miles from Reims, August 1909. And in the United States, according to the records, it was not until May 29, 1910, that Curtiss flew from Albany to New York City, making one stop in the 150 miles. However, so this unrecorded flight made some stir in the newspapers. Mr. Tillinghast meant his story humorously. Of course, I mention it because if anybody should look the matter up, he will find the yarn involved in the newspaper accounts. If nothing else had been seen, Mr. Tillinghast might still tell his story and explain why he never did anything with his astonishing secret airplane. But something else was seen, and upon one of the nights in which it appeared, Tillinghast was known to be in his home. According to the New York Tribune, December 21st, 1909, Immigration Inspector Ho of Boston had reported having seen at 1 o'clock in the morning of December 20th a bright light passing over the harbor, and had concluded that he had seen an airship of some kind. New York Tribune, December 23rd, that a mysterious airship had appeared over the town of Worcester, Mass., sweeping the heavens with a searchlight of tremendous power. It had come from the southeast and traveled northwest, then hovering over the city, disappearing in the direction of Marlborough. 2 hours later, it returned. Thousands thronged the streets watching the mysterious visitor. Again it hovered, then moving away, heading first to the south and then to the east. The next night, something was seen at 6 o'clock at Boston. The searchlight shot across the skyline. As it flew away to the north, queries began to pour into the newspaper offices and the police stations regarding the remarkable visitation. It is said that an hour and a half later, an object that was supposed to be an airship with a powerful searchlight appeared in the sky at Willimantic, Connecticut, hovering over the town about 15 minutes. In the New York Sun, December 24th, are more details. It is said that at Willimantic had been seen a large searchlight approaching from the east, and that the dark outlines of something behind the searchlight had been seen. Also, in the Sun, it is said that whatever it may have been that was seen at Boston, it was a dark object with several red lights and a searchlight, approaching Boston from the west, hovering for 10 minutes and then moving away westward. From Lynn, Mass., it was described as a long, black object moving in the direction of Salem and then returning at high speed. It is said that the object had been seen at Marlborough, Mass. 9 times since December 14th.